he got late. So he's reading, His Holiness started reading from page 80, how to show respect for the Dharma and its eater. The Sutra for Sthitikarpa says from there. I will try to read a little bit wherever it is possible. Otherwise, I'll have to just keep on jumping. The Sutra for Sthitikarpa says, listen to the Dharma with singular faith and respect. Do not mock it, nor disparage it. Make offerings to the teachers of the Dharma. Develop the attitude that they are Buddha's equal. You must pay the same respect to the teachers of Dharma when you listen to their teachings as you would to your teacher, to our teacher Buddha. It goes on. Asanga's Bodhisattva level says that you must listen quite free of delusions, the mind undistracted by the 5 things explained before. You should also be free of pride. There is further mention of 6 things that should be present while you listen. 1, the right time. 2, deference. 3, respect. 4, a lack of anger. 5, the intention to put the teachings into practice later. 6, an absence of arguing with the teacher. Let us take the first of these, the right time. The Guru must give a teaching if he feels happy to do so, if he has no other pressing duties, etc. So you would not request or listen to his teachings whenever it suits you, as this would be most presumptuous and selfish. Geshe Buddha was once staying in Ganden Monastery in the uplands of the central province, editing many scriptural texts, which was a headache. A man came to him and requested teachings. Geshe Buddha stood up and, adopting a rather angry manner, drove the man away. The man beat a hasty retreat, which only goes to show you should be skilled in your timing. One shows deference through prostrations and rising in the teacher's presence. Paying respect includes washing his hands and feet. A lack of anger is not getting upset if you have to do a chore on his behalf. Arguing with means being haughty. It could also mean holding some of the Dharma and its teacher in contempt, an action related to your delusions. One should also not dwell on the 5 things: his degenerate ethics, his low caste, his poor clothes, his poor way of speaking or bad usage of words, and his use of unpleasant language. One must give up any idea of seeing these 5 things as false. The next section is the actual way to listen to the Dharma. So it begins. This has 2 parts. 1, abandoning the 3 types of faults hindering one from becoming a worthy vessel, and 2, cultivating the 6 helpful attitudes. The next section is abandoning the 3 types of faults hindering one from becoming a worthy vessel. These 3 are as follows: the fault of being like an upturned vessel, the fault of being like a stained vessel, and 3, the fault of being like a leaky vessel. The fault of being like an upturned vessel. If a vessel is upturned, no matter how much nourishing liquid is poured over it, none of the nourishment will go inside. Your body may be sitting among the audience of a teaching, but you will understand nothing if your mind is distracted and your ears are not taking in what is being said. This is no difference from not going to the teaching at all. You must listen like a deer, an animal much attached to sound. You must give the teaching your full attention. Giving it your full attention does not mean listening to Dharma with only half of your attention while the other half of your mind is distracted. It means you focus entirely on everything. Be like deer because of their attachment to sound. When they listen to a flute being played, they don't even know a hunter is shooting his arrow. The next section, the fault of being like a stained vessel. A vessel may not be upturned, but if it contains poison, impurities, and so on, then even a wholesome liquid poured into it will not be fit for use. Your ears may be taking everything in, but you may be motivated by thoughts of furthering your studies or by thoughts of repeating what you hear to other people, and so on. Compared to these motivations being motivated by, for example, a yearning for the peace of liberation, merely for yourself is an improvement. But even this is still said to be a fault and to resemble a stained vessel. You must therefore listen with at least contrived bodhicitta as your motive. The next section, the follow being like a leaky vessel. A vessel may be neither upturned nor stained, but if the bottom leaks, it will not retain any liquid, regardless of how much has been poured into it. Your ears may be taking everything and your motivation may be faultless, but unless you listen carefully, His Holiness is talking about the disease of afflictive emotion is identifying is extremely important. Other religions doesn't have much explanation on this. In Hindu traditions, does have some explanation on this. For example, looking at the faults and shortcomings of the afflictive emotions of the three realms, like form realms and formless realm, and the peak. That's why I say in Indian tradition, they have the practice of vipassana and shamatha. So that's why there's a quite good presentation on the mind and mental factors. This is a unique quality of Indian tradition. All the major religious traditions developed in India have shared this on mental phenomenology. But our Indian friends are not paying that much interest in that these days, other than just emphasizing on doing worship practice. But there are some individual scholars who are paying interest and who know quite a lot about that. Recently, I was attending the World Hindu Congress in Delhi. And at that conference, I was invited there, and at that time I made it a point to mention to the gathering that in ancient times, many great ancient masters have write extraordinary. For example, if you read Pramana Vartika, you can tell that there were extensive debates between Buddhist and non-Buddhist Indian traditions in ancient times on logic and valid cognition. And that kind of debate helped both sides in developing their ideas. Because when one side put forth a strong refutation, the other side feels compelled to think deeper. And for example, I mentioned at that time about the direct cognition and selective cognition, and also on the different the number of valid cognitions, and what is the definition of valid reasoning, the three qualities of valid reasoning, like that. So I told them to pay attention to these things and sort of revisit the ancient tradition. And I also said that these days the ancient Indian knowledge on mental and mind and mental science is far more deeper than modern Western knowledge on mind science, which is still a sort of a toddler, sort of a child. But scientists just don't stay there. They keep on researching and keep on developing and evolving. For example, one of my scientist friends have developed a science of looking at a person's facial features and then predicting 16 different types of emotional states. So these things we should learn from them, or rather, we should take these incorporate these into our own science on mind and mental factors. We should understand them. We shouldn't just think, oh, we have everything, that we have more than enough. We should keep on. We should continue the discourse and the debate and the discussion. And so this is the scientist has done like that. We have this tendency to stick to the stereotype, not moving one inch more forward, not backing up 1 inch behind. So the monks, abbots, and geishas and teachers here, we should not just stay in our monastery and think, oh, we are in this monastery, we have more than enough. Even if we cannot leap and jump like beetles, we should sort of move slowly ahead. In Dalhousie, at that time, they were in the older times. Gen Yima was there, Tiu Gyobyo Rinpoche was there. I had the occasion to mention to them that about these things, and since then, a lot of changes has occurred. Today, therefore, nowadays, for example, we have paying attention to modern science. So, in the last 50 plus years, we have moved forward a lot, but we have much more to move forward, and keep this in mind. Generally speaking, here since 10 plus years, in the last 10 plus years, in the 3 monasteries, we have started this voluntary science program, and I've met a number of these teachers who participated in these science programs, and these teachers were greatly praising the monk students who participate in these classes, because these monk students don't know English well, so this language problem, and the scientists themselves came from the West. They don't know Hindi, neither Tibetan. Secondly, the Tibetan monk students, they have no background in maths, because in science, maths is the language to teach science. However, the teachers, when they teach the monk students, they found out that the monks have a very powerful logical approach. They immediately can get a good grasp. The monks can say, sort of very powerfully think, okay, if this is so, then it must be like that. If it is so, then the next logical sequence should be like that. So they have a very strong, powerful analytical power, and that's due to the dialectics debate and logic study they are doing here. This, which is a legacy of the Nalanda tradition. So we already had the material, and now we just have to add on. Sometimes I brag a little bit and say, in the last 30 years, during my exchanges with scientists and dialogues with them, many of the scientists specialize in their own special fields, and when they make presentations, they make such remarkable presentations. But if you listen carefully, you can see sometimes see there are some contradictions. And later on, I mentioned to them with great respect that you said this at the beginning, you said another thing at the end, and then don't you think there's a slight contradiction there? And then they are saying, oh, this is something we have to rethink over. So even though they are big scientists, so we, on the other hand, are so used to trained in this Buddhist Nalanda tradition of analyzing and debating, and that helps to even use that same skill in even in modern fields like science, and then make us confident to talk to them and debate with them. So we do have this skill is really remarkable. So this is just a side talk. So we have a very rich heritage on debate, logic, and mental science. So on this field, like even within India, within Indian traditions, non-Buddhist Hindu traditions, sort of they have very limited, very thing to say on this thing, and the Nalanda tradition that we are preserving has a lot to say. So we should carry on and continue the dialogue and the discourse, and further make progress. So in this world, the reason why there are so many problems is because we are not able to look at afflictive emotions as fault, negative. Also, those who believe in God, they just single-pointedly believe in God, but they are not able to look at afflictive emotions as destructive. Look at those people who are following Turkey. I'm feeling compassion to them. Look at their continuum, the afflictive emotion in them. If I advise them, they are not listening, and they have every freedom to do so. I cannot help. Even the Buddha doesn't have power to stop people from thinking and doing what they want. How can I have that power? So page so so His Holiness His Holiness passed through is right now on the section on cultivating the 6 helpful attitudes, and then out of which the first one is the developing the attitude that you are like a patient. And then the next section, attitude. There are 6 attitudes. The second attitude is developing the attitude that the holy Dharma is medicine. The third attitude, developing the attitude that your spiritual guide is like a skillful doctor. So the teacher, the master, the Lama, or the guru is like a doctor. That's the fourth attitude, I think. So here the text reads, when you are sick but have no doctor and instead just take some medicine, you may mistake your condition. Is it a hot or cold disease, for instance, and the stage the illness has reached? The medicine you take may not help and could even endanger your life. You most assuredly need to depend on a skillful doctor. You might not rely on a spiritual guide and instead feel. It is enough to practice Dharma from books, but you must not develop any realization or insights from your recitations and meditations and so on. Your mind stream would become more and more set in its ways. Thus, when you decide you should practice the Dharma, you must seriously rely on a spiritual guide as you would rely on a skillful doctor. As a patient, you are very happy when you find a doctor. You will listen to whatever he tells you, and out of respect, you will treat the doctor with reverence. You should do the same when you find a spiritual guide, as it says in the summary of precious good qualities. Thus, the wise who strongly wish to seek holy enlightenment should completely subjugate their pride. Just as patients, in order to be cured, depend on doctors, so should the seeker depend steadfastly on a spiritual guide. The next section is developing the attitude that diligent practice will cure the illness. The medicine is a thing that helps the patient's illness, but perhaps the patient doesn't follow the doctor's advice and instead just leaves the prescribed medicine by his bedside. When the patient does not do that, what the doctor says, do what the doctor says, and does all the things he says not to do, and never gets better, you cannot blame the doctor and you cannot blame the medicine, because the patient brought it on himself. The spiritual guide is like a skillful doctor, but if you listen to many oral instructions, like a medicine to pacify the disease of delusion and do not put them into practice, they will not benefit your mind stream. No matter how profound or extensive they may be, you should not blame the Guru, you should not blame the Dharma. It is the very student not putting the Dharma into practice who is at fault, as it is said in the King of Single-Pointed Concentration Sutra. So, for example, like poetry, song and music, these are something you just can afford to listen and then forget. But whereas the teaching on spiritual teaching, the meaning on how to overcome our afflictive emotions, delusions. This is something you not only listen to, but then use what you heard to overcome your afflictive emotions. So that's what this is saying. So teaching is something, the purpose of teaching is to implement it so that it will help. You can use it to overcome your delusions. The King of Single-Pointed Concentration Sutra says, after constant searching, the patient finds a skilled and intelligent doctor who, eyeing him with much compassion, and so on, Shantideva says, in engaging in the deeds of bodhisattvas, physically make use of these. Mere words accomplish nothing. Will the sick be helped just by reading the prescription? So it is not enough that you possess the medicine. In order to be cured, you must properly administer it and follow the doctor's order. You must apply your knowledge of the meaning of the oral instructions on pacifying this disease of delusion and put these instructions into practice. So here, this Tibetan word Shwetesho means you'll hear about, you learned about Buddhism, but you just it just sort of you are not. It doesn't move you to sort of practice. His Holiness says this happens only basically only when you don't understand profoundly. Then this happens. But if you, for example, understand the Four Noble Truths very profoundly, then this hardly could happen. And if you have a real profound view of emptiness and dependent arising Four Noble Truths, then there's no way but to feel compelled and inspired to engage in practice. I think His Holiness is on page 87 right now. Domdimba, the king of Dhamma, said the following on the need to combine study, compassion, and meditation. Many must the Azong of Sharze Monastery and Lam Rim, they were telling, and many others like them are saying that even from the time they were studying as a student the Prajna Paramita, they have started to put into practice what they learn in the script, in the text, in their syllabus. So what happens is, what the general trend is that the monk students, they sort of show some interest and put effort where there's a topic where there's a lot of debate, and where there's not much debate and it's more about practice, they sort of show put less effort into that. My Nyema Genze, from home I studied the Zashe Tikche, Tsongkhapa's Zashe Tikche. and Yumjin Sevijame. He's greatly kind to me. He went to South India and he told His Holiness, now I'm going to teach in a different way. Earlier, when I look back, have taught in a sort of a more at the surface level, sort of more sort of interpretation of the words of the text. Now I'm going to teach in a different way by going into the real meaning. So therefore, His Holiness is emphasizing that practice is something one should not say, I will start practicing when I have finished all the studies. But rather, you should start practicing right from the time when you have started to study. That's why Domdömba here says, when I study, I increase my contemplation and meditation. When I contemplate, I increase my study and meditation. When I meditate, I increase my study and contemplation. I know how to gather them as the one foundation and take the Dharma as my path. I am a Kadamba and don't go do things in parts. People who wear blinkers are deceived. Those who well understand the excellent are Kadambas. We are still on page 87. Now we are on, I think, page 88. One should put everything into immediate practice, just like Geshe Chengawa. He was reading a section of Vinaya that discussed leather and hides. He saw that it forbade someone ordained from handling animal hides. He happened to be sitting on a hide at that time. He immediately threw it out. One reading further, he found an exception to this rule for remote controls, and that ordained there were permitted to handle hides. He retrieved the hide and spread it on his seat again. Next section, developing the attitude that the Thakaras are holy beings. The first person to teach Dharma was our teacher, the Buddha, and he himself made manifest the path and its results. He taught it to others properly, and the points he taught on the subject of modifying one's behavior were without the slightest error. Thus, he is an authority. One must therefore feel, how could his teaching on the Dharma be mistaken? When one recalls these facts about Buddha in one tradition, one can conjoin this with the attitude that a holy being is a Tathagata. One should then feel, this holy being, my Guru, is an emanation of the Tathagata Shakyamuni. Next section, developing the attitude that this tradition should be preserved for a long time. We are on page 88. Through listening to such Dharma as this, one comes to think how wonderful it would be if the teachings of the victorious one were preserved in this world for a long time. The first 5 attitudes are examples of recalling the Tathagata's kindness. The 6th attitude is a meditation on repaying the Buddha's kindness. When listening to the Dharma, these are crucial. The reason for attending teaching is to bring some pressure to bear on your mind stream. Otherwise, your mind will only stay the way it is. And if you have experienced no change after listening to a teaching, then there has been absolutely no benefit for your mind stream. Even though the instruction may have been particularly profound and you listen closely, an illustration, you need to look into a mirror in order to see whether your face is dirty. Then you can remove any dirt that may be there. You examine your own mind stream and behave in the mirror of the Dharma. You listen to the Dharma to tell whether your mind has any flaws. If you find any, you should be distressed and think, has my mind come to this? You will then want to do all you can to rid yourself of the faults. The Jataka tales tell us, when I see the form of my evil deeds clearly in the mirror of the Dharma, my mind is horribly tormented. I shall now turn to the Dharma. Sudasaputra, also known as Prince Kalmashapata, said this to Prince Chandra. His story serves as an example to us all. Where the blessed Buddha was still a learner treading the path, he was reborn as the Bodhisattva Prince Chandra. There was a man called Sudasaputra who used to kill people and eat his victims. One day the prince went into a grove and an eloquent Brahmin came to him. While the prince was receiving a Dharma teaching from this eloquent Brahmin, suddenly they heard a great noise. People were sent to see what was happening. They found that Sudasaputra was coming. The prince's bodyguards said, Sudasaputra Kalmashabda eats people. He's a man to be feared. Our army, its many forces, elephants and chariots, have scattered and fled. What are we to do? The time has come to parley with him. This idea pleased the prince, and Deaf to the pleas of his wives and entourage, he went to where the great clamor was coming from. The prince saw Sudasaputras pursuing the king's army in a rage, his swords and shield held high. But the prince fearlessly and without hesitation said, "I'm Prince Chantra, I'm here, come here to me." Sudasaputras turned around and made for the prince. Saying as he ran, "It's you I want," he flung the prince over his shoulder and ran off with him to his lair. This terrifying place was full of human skeletons. The floor was red, and the whole place resounded with the gruesome calls of ferocious flesh-eaters such as jackals, vultures, and ravens. The lair was black with the smoke of roasted corpses. Sudasaputra put the prince down in this horrifying place and rested. But with his eyes fixed on the handsome body of the prince thought to himself, "I had no chance to make an offering to the eloquent Brahmin in the grove for the Dharma I received." This thought made him cry, "Cease, enough, Sudasaputra said. You, Prince Chantra, are famed for your steadfastness. How strange you should be crying now that I have captured you. They say, steadfastness is useless when you undergo pain. Studies don't help when you suffer. If everyone cringes when struck, I think this is true. Tell me honestly, are you afraid I'm going to kill you? Are you afraid you will be parted from your friends, relations, wives, children, parents? Tell the truth. Whatever it may be, why are you crying?" "I was receiving the Dharma from a Brahmin," the prince replied, "but I was unable to make him an offering. Let me go to him and give him something, and I will definitely return to you." "That cannot be true, no matter what you say," said Sudasaputra. "After once being saved from the jaws of the Lord of Death, who would return to his presence? Have I not given my word and promised to return? I am he known as Prince Chantra, and I value the truth as much as my own life. I do not trust what you say. However, I am willing to test you," he said. "Go back and we shall see if you really value the truth. Go back, complete your business with the Brahmin, and whatever it is, then return quickly. I will get the fire ready to roast you, and I will wait for you." The prince returned to his home and gave the Brahmin 4,000 ounces in gold as payment for the 4 verses. For the 4 verses the Brahmin had taught. The prince's father tried various means to stop him, but to no avail. The prince returned to the lair of Sudasaputra, who was astonished to see him in the distance. The prince told him, "You may now eat me. I know the time to eat. I know the time to eat you." Sudasaputra replied, "The fire is now smoking. If I roast flesh when the fire is smoking, it will stink up smoke and the taste will be ruined. In the meantime, teach me what you have heard from the Brahmin, which you claim is so important." The Brahmin's eloquent word told how to distinguish between non-dharma and dharma. "Your evil ways are worse than the man-eating rakshas. What good could study possible do you?" Sudasaputra could not bear this remark. "Stop, enough. You kings kill deer with your weapons. That goes against Dharma. Kings who kill deer contravene the Dharma," replied Prince Chandra. "But eating human flesh is worse. Humans are higher than deer. And if it is wrong to eat the flesh of someone who died a natural death, how could people eat, killing people to eat them be right?" Sudasaputra then said, "You haven't learned much from the scriptures. If you come back to me, you haven't learned much from the scriptures if you came back to me. I returned in order to keep my word, and so I have learned much from the scriptures." The other men were afraid when I had them in my clutches. "But you have proved to be a steadfast hero. You have not lost your composure. You seem unafraid to die." "Those men were full of remorse because they had sinned," said the prince. "But there is no sin I can recall ever having done. I am therefore unafraid. I offer myself for you. You may eat me." Sudasaputra had by now developed faith in the prince. His eyes were full of tears and the hairs on his body were standing on end. He looked at the prince in awe and told him about his sinful nature. "Deliberately sinning against a person like you," Sudasaputra said, "would be like drinking strong poison. Teach me, I beg you, what the Brahmin so eloquently taught you." He also said at this point that the verse we had above. "When I see the form of my evil deeds clearly in the mirror of the Dharma, my mind is terribly tormented. I shall now return to the Dharma." Prince Chandra saw that he had become a suitable vessel for the Dharma and said, "Drink." His Holiness is right now is sort of analyzing the master. This is something actually we also require, because we hear that in China these days there are many fake lamas coming from Kham, sort of cheating disciples. So I met one Chinese man who was saying this. I told him then, don't treat them like masters, just treat them as a friend, and ask them more questions on Dharma. So it's okay to consult somebody, learn Dharma from some monks, but one should also make sure that you ask a lot of questions, question the Lama, and so this is very important. Otherwise, some fake lamas cheat students, and it's a disgrace for the Dharma. I know one person called Tibetan, who was the 13th Dalai Lama's horsekeeper. He went to see a doctor and told him to be careful. So Tibetan got a little offended and said back to the doctor, the doctors have to be careful also. So if the Lama tells us we have to be careful, do this and do that, then we should tell back, you Lamas also should do the same thing. So in this way, the Prince Chandra subdued this monster, and I think right now we're on page 92. The Buddha Dharma, His Holiness is saying, is as pure as a gold after through the three analysis, it has been proven pure. So we are on the last paragraph of page 92. So page 93, beginning, whatever Geshe Pothowa taught benefited people's mind, even his anecdotes about birds. There was also a great scholar called Geshe Chugye, but his instructions were not beneficial for the mind, no matter how profound or extensive they were. Some people mentioned this to Pothowa, and Pothowa said, all his teachings are rather eloquent, but there is a difference between the way we teach. Pothowa was asked to explain further. He teaches in order to communicate facts, while all my Dharma targets the internal. That is the difference in our teaching. So His Holiness says, if the Buddha's teachings, because all the Buddha's teaching is to subdue the delusions and based on reality and fact, therefore all the logic and inferences in Buddhism are ultimately based on actual facts, direct perceptions. So out of the four valid facts, valid statement, valid treatises, and valid as far as valid cognition arises in you. First, experiential cognition comes first, then So His Holiness is explaining about the Buddha Dhamma being Lung Tsema, Danger Tsema means like unmistaken. The Buddha being faultless, and it's based on what is called as the four kinds of four standard what do you call faultless characters, and also His Holiness was explaining about how valid cognitions arise in our mind regarding conviction in a certain point, standard statements set in the scriptures. So his teachers, in order to communicate, while all my when 13th Dalai Lama was here, there's a mention of the Chusang Rizhi. The 13th Dalai Lama, when he was young, went and stayed there for a while. Chusang Lama Rinpoche, and was a close associate of Chusang Lama Yishi Gyaltso. So that's why this text says here, as Chusang Lama Rinpoche Yishi Gyaltso said, I overheard him giving teaching and initiations. He does these well, but I was deeply saddened when he eagerly took pledges for donations. In other words, this must not happen. Our teaching is most beneficial where the teacher cares nothing for material offerings. Okay, it's nothing for the plea for altruism Sutta mentions 20 benefits. Maitreya, Genpema Genze and Ling Rinpoche also used to say, some geishas, after finishing their geisha examination, they start giving classes to monks, students, and then their knowledge start becoming better and better. Therefore, you shouldn't stop studying after you have finished your geisha examination, because after your studies, you should continue study, and your real knowledge of Dharma, Buddhist philosophy becomes better after that. It's because we are studying Dharma for the sake of attaining liberation and enlightenment, and attain these grounds and paths, not for the sake of geisha examination. Therefore, our study must continue for our lifetime, during our entire lifetime. Ultimate truth. His Holiness is talking about the 3 stages of the understanding: learning, contemplation, and meditation, meditative knowledge. The knowledge you attain through studying, obtained through contemplation or analysis, and then knowledge, the knowledge that you obtain through meditation. So So you will. It says we are still in page, and at the end of page 95, you will receive the benefits if you do this. Do the same thing when you memorize a text. You receive these benefits from your conversations with other people. You teach them the key points of modifying one's behavior. But note, whether you are a person's guru or not, also makes a difference. 96, page 96, being respectful to the Dharma and its teacher. Mawan Thapo said, the Buddha, our teacher, set up his own throne when he taught the Holy Mother. That is when the Bhagavan when the first Buddha convocation was held, Ananda and other speakers were seated on a pile of 500 saffron shawls provided by other arhats. This was done out of respect for the general greatness of the Dharma being taught. Here, I should add that the 3 robes of a monk were the dress adopted by the Buddha, yet many monks nowadays use their shawls to wipe things or as cushions. It is utterly wrong to do this. These are the Dharma must be respected because of its greatness. You must recall our teacher's good qualities and his kindness and develop respect. What to think and what do while teaching. What to think. This is the section, next section. Ngawan Thakpo said, abandon niggardliness, singing your own praises and drowsiness while teaching, discussing others' fault, postponing teachings and jealousy. Have love for your followers and teach while keeping the 5 attitudes. Think that the virtues of teaching properly are the provisions for your happiness. That is, don't hold back with the key points of instruction, for that would be a form of miserliness with the teaching. During your Dharma teachings, you should not sing your own praises by saying, in the past, I even did this, that, and other. You should not become drowsy while teaching. You should not discuss other people's faults with attachment or hostility as your motto. You should not be lazy and postpone a teaching because you do not want to give it. And you should give up jealousy that arises because your respect other people are higher than other than you. You must have strong love and compassion for your listeners. You must also hold 5 attitudes. These 5 are the same as the above 6 attitudes, but omit the attitude that your diligent practice of Dharma will cure you. In other words, these 5 attitudes are they are patience, the Dharma is the meditation, they are patience, the Dharma is the medicine, you are the doctor, and so forth. You should then feel that the virtue that results from the teaching properly are the provisions of my happiness. The reason one of the 6 was omitted is that it applies more to the disciples than to the teacher. Next section, what to do while teaching. You should wash yourself beforehand. Your appearance should be neat and your clothes new. Sit on a high teaching throne. Your manner should be cheerful. Teach by means of analogies, quotations, and formal logic so that the meaning will be made clear. All the same, I'm embarrassed and rather unhappy to be sitting on this high throne when high incarnate lamas are sitting below me. However, I must sit here out of respect for the greatness of Dharma. In fact, it is wonderful that this custom has not died out in the central and Tsang provinces. If this customs were no longer followed and the Lama sat on a low throne while teaching, people would think it odd when he tells them, I received this lineage from several great Lamas, as one story tells. Your manner should be cheerful means you ought to smile at your disciples when you teach. Longdu Lam Rim, on the other hand, used to scold his disciples and threaten them with the rod in his hand when he taught. If you confuse the order of the headings, your teachings will be as messy as a crow's nest. If you omit the difficult points and teach only the easy material, your teaching will be like great gruel made for an old person. Teachers who do not properly understand the inner meaning of the teaching and have to resort to guesswork are like blind people depending on their canes. This is wrong. My own precious guru, my supreme teacher told me the following: when you are about to teach the Dharma, you should set your motivation properly while walking from your room to the teaching. Imagine that the root lineage gurus of the particular Dharma you will teach are seated on your throne, one guru on top of another. Prostrate yourself 3 times to the throne. The gurus merge into one or each other one by one. All of them finally merge into your own root guru. As you mount the throne, your own guru merges into you. Then, yes, you see it. You should snap your fingers and recite a verse on impermanence, such as like a phenomena, a star, a flickering butter lamps. Happiness is an illusion and lasts like a bubble, a dream, a lightning flash, or a day. All conditioned phenomena are like this. You should feel this is only for a few minutes. It is only something impermanent. Suppress any inflated opinion you may have of yourself. Otherwise, as my Lama told me, you might develop pride when you sit on the high throne and feel, now I am someone important. They say you should recite mantras to defeat the demons, but traditionally we recite the Heart Sutra and a prayer to block hindrances marked by 3 hand claps. Then perform the 6 preparatory rites using the slow chants and melodies, the practice of etc., etc. His Holiness is on page 99 on the section the difference between the people you should teach and those you should not. So,
we're towards the end of. It seems 2 pages are missing in the new edition, the soft copy. Mundgod. So we are at this subtopic called the difference between the people you should teach and those you should not. In general, as it is, it says in the transmission. So. Of the Vinaya, do not teach anything that has not been requested. In other words, it is not right to give something you have not been requested to teach. And now we come to the end of the part 1 and switch now to Shaman Lam Rim. 거로 걸음 시다라 쇼에 다가라래 So it's about the thinking about or reflecting on the advantage of relying on a guru and disadvantage on not relying on a guru. Holiness, much transfer covered. Transfer get covered. Some shasati. So single-pointed application to the practice as given in the path, please. The embodied nature of the 4 Buddha Kayas, Buddha bodies, and embodiment of the sources of refuge, or else, in short, utter the following verse: you are the combined nature of all the sources of refuge, gurus, Ishtadevas, Triratna, and others. O my Savior, I rely upon you, none other. So I supplicate you. 28. So if we correctly rely on, if we correctly relied on our spiritual teachers, whatever spiritual practices are undertaken, we undertake, such as doing our studies, reflection, and meditation, we would be successful in them, and in future we would all be under the guidance of qualified teachers. And next, in terms of the actual practice, there are two: reliance in thought and reliance through action. Within the first one, there are two: faith, cultivating faith, the root of the path, and respecting by recalling the kindness of the gurus. And the former has two parts, of which the first is how to cultivate the mind to see the guru as a Buddha. Visualize your gurus with whom you have direct Dharma connection. So with regard to the outline of the Lam Rim Rinpoche's way of making the outlines, he goes through the qualifications of the guru to whom you rely on, and the qualifications of the disciple who relies on the guru, and then how the disciple relies on the guru. And then he goes through the reliance, advantage of relying, and not a disadvantage of not relying on a guru, and so forth. And Ganden Jangtse has said that this Gelug tradition, although has become prosperous in times of material gains, but it is slim, and how sad it is slim in terms of the progress in the study and meditation practice. So in the beginning, when Chinese from mainland China came to see me, one Chinese came to see me, and about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and he told me that many Tibetans come to his teaching, come to China proper, and they as they become more and more familiar with these people, what they found was they had actually gradually found that these teachers have come to seek money and women. And so he asked whether I can do anything about it. And so I told him, I'm living in India, I cannot do anything from here. But what you need to do as Chinese people, you need to actually study about the qualifications of the gurus, and then check those people who come to you, whether they actually have these qualifications of the teacher. And so when you next time find these people who call themselves Dharma kings, you should actually investigate and check them whether they actually have those guru qualifications of as a master or not. And you should actually ask lots of questions to them. And so, of course, the internal qualities may not be accessible right away to us, but as we have in our logical text that from some kingfishers flying above some region, we can kind of infer from afar that there is a water there. And so likewise, we need to check those lamas and the so-called lamas by knowing first the qualities which they must embody. And if they do not have those qualifications, then you can just take them as your friends in the Dharma. But once you find them to be qualified teachers, then you should regard them, take them as your spiritual master. And so in Lam Rim Chemo, what is this phrase? Says there's no way one can actually subdue others without subduing oneself. Therefore, those who wish to subdue others must first subdue themselves. This is a very powerful statement. And then Rinpoche also goes on to say that Now, with regard to subduing or disciplining oneself and others, what we need to do is not just be satisfied with partial study and practice, but then we need to actually do our practice and study on the basis of do our studies and practice on practice of the 3 trainings, and then one should rely on a guru, and so this gives us the qualifications of a guru. And then in Lam Rim, when it comes to the qualifications of a disciple, it says one must be unbiased, have intelligence and aspiration to practice. And therefore, once you have found the guru, one should and so with regard to qualifications of the guru, beginning with the Vinaya up to the Tantra, we have the qualifications in terms of the sutra, the 10 qualifications of a guru, which are given in the Mahayana Sutra Alamkara. And then the Tantric gurus have their own qualifications that are mentioned in the, for example, the text like 50 stanzas on guru devotion. So first, you visualize your guru in front of you, and from his heart you should imagine your root guru surrounded by the other gurus, and then reflect on the advantage of relying on a guru and disadvantage of not relying, and then you should decide that you must rely on a guru. And then reflecting on the disadvantage of the wrong reliance of a guru, then you should actually decide that you will rely on a guru properly and correctly. And then once you rely on a guru, you think about, reflect on the guru's qualities, and then also his kindness, and develop faith gratitude in the guru. And so with regards to developing the faith in the guru, so with regard to that, visualize your guru with whom you have direct dharma and dharma connection, those you have heard a single stanza and more, emanating from the heart of the Guru Munindra and sitting in the sky before you. While observing them, ponder that it is said in the dual analysis. So these are very beneficial to meditate on. In the times to come, I will myself be in the physical form of a teacher, and so because you want gain, you should see the purpose or the reason that you should rely on a teacher, and that you can rely on a teacher, and how you would rely on a teacher. And then, when you even see some faults of the Lama, that could even be used as a catalyst for seeing the Lama's qualities as well. And in the 10th Tantra, it says, you who is known as a Vajrasattva, you assume the form of a teacher. Aiming to benefit sentient beings, you reside in an ordinary form. And also, during the last 500-year phase, I will assume the form of a teacher. Think in your mind, it is me, and show your respect. And so, know that the victorious Vajradhara himself prophesies that in the future there will come a time known as the last 500 years, which is when the Dharma is at its lowest ebb, and a time intensely rife with the 5 degenerations. And as such, at such a time, Vajradhara has said that since the disciples to be would be very unfortunate if he manifested in the form of a supreme emanation body, those beings will have no access to him. So he told they should not be disappointed, since he would serve the interests of others in form of which would be suitably accessible to the sentient beings themselves, and therefore they should perceive the person who appears to them as their teacher as Vajradhara himself, and should be respectful to him accordingly. Feel that all of the teachers are Vajradhara's display of ordinary being in the form of teachers for us who have no karmic vision to see a real Buddha in order to take us under his care and guidance. Since a single guru appearing in ordinary form cannot display all the enlightened deeds, Vajradhara has shown in many forms, different forms of guru, manifesting as a guru for reading alphabet. Vajradhara teaches us reading by spelling out the letters and compound readings and so forth, so on, and manifesting as precept master and assistant. Vajradhara gives us the Rabjung precepts and ordain us as Shramanas and Bhikshus. By manifesting as Vajra master, Vajradhara confers upon us the empowerment of the different sets of Tantra, and by manifesting as our holy teachers, Vajradhara gives us profound explanations of great treatises of our classic texts and guided teachings on the stages of the path to enlightenment. Thus, Vajradhara leads us to the practice of a complete path. And then this may be illustrated by the manner in which Arya Avalokiteshvara displayed in numerous forms in order to tame disciples in order to tame the beings of snowlands such as these. First, he procreated the human race in Tibet. Then, by assuming kingship, he prescribed the 16 moral principles for human beings. And by assuming the form of translators and teachers, he disseminated the precious teaching of the conqueror through the translation of the Dharmas. There are the sources which indicate that Bhagavan Buddha manifesting in the form of teachers. When the complete and perfect Buddha was giving a teaching to his retinue of many disciples on the very high hill in South India, when he was about to pass away, the Bhagavan knew the thought of the Bodhisattva meaningful to behold, who felt in his heart that after the Buddha passes away, we would have no one to teach us. And the Buddha told him this, meaningful to behold. In the times to come in future, I will appear in the form of precept masters. I will abide in the body of teachers. And then the Buddhas are freed from 4 rivers of birth, aging, sickness, and death, but the spiritual teachers are not freed from them. So how can they serve transmigrators in the body of teachers? In order to clear such qualms, it is stated in the same sutra, meaningful to behold, in order to make the sentient being's nature mature, I shall appear being born, aging, sick, and dying as well. So, as found extensively in these lines and others, feel that the Bhagavan manifests in the form of spiritual teachers in order to help sentient beings. Otherwise, the Buddhas would not have taken us under their care. Yet the fact that we have become monastics and come across the Dharma signifies we are cared for and guided by the Buddhas. The Buddha himself has said he would assume ordinary forms. Therefore, how can mere ordinary appearance be a proof of not being a Buddha? How can a low, ignorant person like me have the good fortune to exactly see all the inconceivable secrets, the excellent qualities of Buddhas? Nevertheless, just going by the qualities that are commonly accessible to us, the spiritual teachers have extraordinary qualifications. They are much learned, are steeped in practice, are chaste, and have little craving for material things, and so on. And judging by the way the teachers serve us disciples, they must have been intentionally manifested by the Buddhas for our sake. Therefore, pray, O Guru Deity, bless me and all sentient beings to be able to see all our spiritual teachers as real Munindra Vajradharas. So seeing the faults of lamas turning as catalysts for us to have more further strengthen our faith further is really, really important. So we have no access, direct access to the enlightened beings, the Buddhas, and even the Bodhisattvas on the pure grounds. We do not have access to them. And when Buddhas appear in the form of manifestations, the Nirvana-kaya form, then we have access to the Buddhas. There have been innumerable Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the past, and also scholar adepts, masters. We have not been able to catch up to them, but the lamas whom we have direct connection with, who appear like us, then if we cannot see the qualities, and so by receiving the teachings and also thinking about, by seeing the Lama and also being able to receive teachings and think about the teachings and so forth, is merely because the Lama appears in an ordinary form. Otherwise we would not be able to even to have access to these teachings and see the lamas. If they were to remain in the Sambhogakaya form and the Dharmakaya, then we would not have that kind of access to. And therefore, appearing in ordinary form, just not just mean that the body is ordinary, but the ordinary appears as ordinary body, but even within their mind, they appear as if they have these negative emotions. And therefore, because of appearing in such a form, it is we should feel grateful to the lamas for their kindness. So for certain reason, the lamas have appeared in ordinary forms, and because of that, thanks to that appearance, we have the opportunity to receive teachings, and therefore, that in that way, we should use that perception of a lama as ordinary being, even as a catalyst to strengthen our faith. So you may have come, the Buddha have eliminated all the faults and attained positive qualities, but my teachers have many faults, like having full mind, being lusty about material gains, and having little knowledge, which are all driven by three inner mental poisons. Therefore, I believe they cannot be Buddhas. But the response, that is only appearance of your own misperception into those faults. As it is found in the sutras, that in the past, people like Lekar or Devadatta created immense negative karmas due to their impure perception of Buddha, and because of which they, in spite of actually seeing him in person, found the Buddha to be conglomerate of faults, and though the Buddha did not exhibit those faults, they still perceived them in him due to their own mental delusion. So judging by this, that it is quite certain that since they are consciously manifested in ordinary forms, the faults seen in my teachers are apparent aspects. Moreover, if it is mentioned that even beings who have achieved high realizations could have wrong impressions about of their spiritual teachers, for example, a Sangha who had attained the third Bodhisattva ground, seeing Bhadarak Maitreya as an infested bitch, Maitreya seeing Shavaripa, the master of Lord meditators, indulging in inappropriate things like killing swines, Naropa seeing Talopa roasting fishes alive, Tembuba, a novice a monk seeing the female deity Vajrayavarahi as a leprous old lady, the Buddha Jana seeing Sri Mitra as an old householder lady plowing her fields. Then for someone like me whose afflictive emotions have not diminished and who is replete with bondages, I am fundamentally bound to have all kinds of illusions. Even when under the influence of some temporary conditions, if we get illusion, like seeing a yellow conch which is incommensurate with the reality, that is a white conch. When you look at it while you are afflicted by jaundice, the snow mountain appearing as a blue mountain to a faulty sensory perception, trees appearing to move by when traveling in a boat, and so on. Then, while my mind stream is influenced by afflictive emotions since time immemorial, it is improbable that I could have the illusion that my gurus have the faults, even when they do not have faults. Therefore, all the faults that I perceive in my gurus appear to me not because they have those faults in reality, but rather it must be analogous to seeing the falling hairs from someone for someone with a certain blurred eyesight, even when there are no hairs falling. Given the immensity of the veils of our karma and destructive emotions, it's quite astonishing to see our guru as humans and even listen to teachings. What if we saw them as dogs and donkeys? It is said that when some hell being suffers intensely and when Buddhas, unable to bear them due to their compassion, go near them, they do not see the Buddhas with all their physical marks and signs of an excellent being because of being obscured by the negative karmas. Rather, they see frightful hell gods and suffer further. Furthermore, if whatever falls of a guru appearing to you must be true just as it appears, then you must accept that whatever impression dawns on your mind must necessarily be unmistaken. For you cannot claim that you may be mistaken about other things, but that it is impossible for you to be wrong about the positive attributes or faults of your gurus. That you cannot be mistaken about whatever appears to you is evidenced by the numerous illusions we have. Sometimes we feel close to some people who wish to deceive, but are ostensibly helpful to us. We make mistake exhortations from those who dig our mistakes to be retaliatory voices. So not all your appearances ensure reality. Even while seeing directly with our eyes, there is the appearance of true existence of visual objects and mirage appearance of water to be water. So even if the Buddhas exhibit as actual Buddhas, we would not be able to see them as apart from displaying ordinary aspects. Ipso facto, like us, there is no other way they could take us ordinary beings under their care, and hence we should feel grateful to them for showing in the ordinary form. If the Buddhas could even manifest as devils, the lame, and so forth, and so as long as it's beneficial to sentient beings, then what need to mention that they can show in the body of an ordinary spiritual teacher? This is so, as it is said in the Sutra of a meeting with father and the son. In the guise of Shakra Brahma and at times in the guise of devils, they serve the interests of sentient beings, but the worldlings do not realize it. In female guise, they enact deeds, and they even exist in the animal realm. Though unlustful, they appear desirous. Though not ferocious, they appear fierce. Though without ignorance, yet they appear ignorant. Though not mad, they appear crazy. Though all these kinds of manifestations, through all these manifestations, they tame the sentient beings. So my gurus only appear ordinary from the viewpoint of my turgid eyes, but in reality, they are emanations of the Buddhas. Therefore, may myself and all sentient beings never have misconceptions about our spiritual virtuous teachers, even for a moment. May we be blessed by our Guru deity to easily have faith in them, to see whatever they do as good. Having prayed thus, think from the Guru deity on my crown purifies all the misconceptions along with their imprints, but about their teachers our teachers are cleansed, and that all of us easily develop great faith in the Guru deity, which sees everything they do as perfect. Second, developing a respect by recollecting the kindness of the Guru deity. Focus our mind on your two gurus before you and ponder. These spiritual teachers are very kind to me. This precious human life I have now would not have happened without a cause, and thus it has come about through the causes comprising moral ethics and others. even this morality, we would not have known how to observe well the morality of restraining the 10 non-virtuous actions, just as our teachers instructed us in the past, that we have now gained in this human life. Even though I may have gained a human life in my childhood, I did not know anything apart from merely crying and suckling milk. Without knowing a letter, I would not be able to read a word of the words of the Buddha and its exegesis, leave alone contemplating their meaning. And so my teacher for reading taught me reading the alphabet, reading words by spelling out the component letters, reading each word separately, and so on. Even if I may be liberated, if I had not gone forth to become a monastic, I would be directed by the numerous household works such as involuntary indulgence in negative actions of killing and others for the sake of my children and spouse, and I would be tending the field and cattle and hence miss out on practicing the Dharma. Thanks to my ordinary precept master, I could enter the Dharma door, feel well and happy for the time being, and steep myself in study, reflection, and meditation practices day and night round the clock. If I do not study, leave aside analyzing the difficult points of the Buddha scripture, I would not know even the coarse practices of what to avoid or adopt it. But because I have received many explanations of text and guided in experiential teachings from my spiritual teachers, I have found a small window of analysis into what practices are to be adopted and what discarded. If I do not integrate what I have studied into my being, but turn my mind outward at the time of death, it will be fruitless, but I would only have regrets. Nonetheless, thanks to my gurus, I presume I have directed my mind to practice of the Dharma. Though I may be arrogant about doing practice, all my effort would be insignificant if I am deceived by mistaking certain subtle focused mind for some supreme view and meditation. Yet it is thanks to the kindness of my Guru Vajradhara that I am able to leave some imprinting in the profound path, which is totally free from all errors and complete with all essential points of the teaching. I could not be there during the times of all the scholar saints who appeared in their past, from peerless mighty sage to Nagarjuna Sangha, the elder Adisha, Drumtempa, and foremost master Tsongkhapa and his spiritual heirs, and so forth. Presently, I do not have the fortune to see the face and hear the voice of the Buddhas as numerous as the atoms of the Ganga who reside in the pure ram, in the pure rams in the 10 directions. At such a time that my gurus kindly give me the fit instructions of the steps of the path to enlightenment, the quintessence of the gist of all the scriptures, which if I could put into practice, it is beyond doubt that I would be able to achieve the short-term goal of higher rebirth and ultimate goal of omniscience, whichever I pursued. Therefore, these spiritual teachers in ordinary aspects. Let's move to spiritual, the Namdo Lakchang, Pabongka Rinpoche's text. Mindu. So what things to so how to how the sequence in which the disciples are to be taught the actual instructions. So on page 104, this is headed into 1, the root of the path, devotion to spiritual guide, and then the stages of how to train the mind after you have begun. And these headings were drawn from great Tsongkhapa's text. They teach one of the points most crucial to our practice. The root of the path tells us the following. All of the trees, leaves, fruits, and so on depend on its root. All insight and realization from the difficulty of gaining the optimal human birth, rebirth, to the unification of normal learning, similarly derive exclusively from one's devotion to a spiritual guide. The conjunction after and how to train in the mind after you have begun to rely on him tells us which action should come first. It tells us that all realizations after the unification come from proper devotion to our spiritual guide. Thus, it is vital to devote ourselves properly to spiritual guide at the outset. The first three major headings we have already covered and are also found in the great stage of the path. The headings that follow are different. They are drawn instead from concise discourses. The root of the path, devotion to spiritual guide. This has two subsections. What to do in your meditation session and what to do between sessions. And a most important point is being made by having these two headings. One heading for the meditation sessions and one for times between sessions. The whole of a person's daily routine can be broken up into full day periods. And each can be divided into what happens during the meditation session and what happens outside these sessions. Thus, any action of your body, speech, and mind occurs either during the meditation session or between sessions. If you make both of these periods meaningful, the whole day becomes meaningful. Extend this over a period of months, years, and so on, and your whole life becomes meaningful. This is crucial. What to do in your meditation session. This has 3 steps. The preparatory rites, how to pursue the main part of the session, what to do at the end session. It is wrong to pay scant attention to the preparations. If you want to make a good cup of tea, for example, you must take it seriously from when you buy the tea. Similarly, if you want to develop religious experiences during the main part of the meditation session, you must accumulate the causes by diligently carrying out the preparatory rites. There are 6 of these. Cleaning your room and arranging the symbol of enlightened body, speech, and mind, obtaining offerings without deceit and arranging them beautifully, adopting the 7-featured sitting position of Virachana on a comfortable seat, after which you take refuge, develop bodhicitta, and so on, while in a specially virtuous frame of mind. And fourth, practicing the merit field, and fifth, the offering the 7 limbs, prayer, and world mandala practices that contain all the key points of accumulation and self-purification, and 6 further petitions which follow the oral instructions made in order to be sure your mental stream is sufficiently imbued by your meditation. Cleaning your room and arranging the symbols. Survana Dvepa Guru, according to his biography, used to clean out his own room. The source of this practice is the sutra that says, the bodhisattva sits cross-legged in clean surroundings. The reason why you must clean your room is as follows. If you invite your guru or some official to your home, you would give your room a good sweep, wouldn't you? Similarly, when you invite your guru, the victorious ones, and their children into your room, in the course of your meditation, you should clean it out of your respect for them. There is no benefit at all if you do this with the same motives as the lay cleaning staff of Padala, Sera, or Depung, for example, because they do their job for the sake of their own happiness or to impress others. Instead, you should feel you are doing this out of reverence and respect for the merit filled, whom you will be inviting into your room as a prelude to pursuing a particular the meditation topic that you were taught in the Lam Rim. You will be doing this meditation in order to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of sentient beings. And all sentient beings, it is most beneficial to think this way. One sutra tells of 5 benefits. One's mind will become clear, other people's minds will become clear. It pleases the gods, one collects karma to be beautiful, and one will be reborn in celestial realms when one leaves this body. My own precious guru told me that the gods who uphold virtue are constantly visiting the human realms and protecting people who... So this is to wake you up, those who have fallen asleep. This needs. Uphold virtue and constantly visiting and protecting people So if you have perhaps had a deep sleep, you might have heard me something, but very vaguely. Who practice Dharma properly, but not cleaning your room discourage them, and they cannot be offer their protection because they avoid unclean things and would be unable to surround you. And cleaning your room pleases your gurus, the Buddhas, and so on, not just the gods who uphold virtue. You will collect the karma of to be beautiful. This does not merely refer to having physical beauty. It will also cause you to have pure ethics. Pure ethics may not have the body may not make the body handsome, but it is something most beautiful to the perception of the Buddhas and their children. As the great Tsongkhapa said, the discerning are clothed in modesty. This is ethics, not fine satins. Eloquence adorns their throats, not a necklace. Their guru is their crown jewel, not some gem. We are told we will be born in celestial realms, but we should take this to mean, above all, the Buddha felt. Arya Chuda Pantak achieved artistship through cleaning a room. I shall briefly tell you his story. In the city of Shravasti, there was once a Brahmin. All his sons had died at birth. One of the old women of the neighborhood told him, "If ever you have another son, call me." The Brahmin did have a son and so summoned the old woman. She told him to wash the baby, swaddle it in white, and fill in mouths with butter and give it to a girl to look after. The Brahmin was instructed to tell the girl to take the baby to a certain crossroads where 4 highways met. She was to pay her respect to any holy men or Brahmins who happened by and say to them, "This baby pays homage at the feet of your noble one." If the baby lived, she should return it at the sunset. If it died, she should abandon it. The girl was conscientious and spent the day at the great crossroad. For some Tirthika priests passed by. First, some Tirthika priests passed by, and the girl followed the old women's orders. The priest said, "May this child survive a long while. May its life be long, and may its parents' wishes be fulfilled." Later, some monks passed by, and they said much the same. The girl then took the child on the road to Jadavan Grove. She met the Buddha on his arms round. She did as before, and the Buddha said the same as the others, and adding, "May its parents have all their dharmic wishes fulfilled." Come, some said the girl saw the baby still alive, so she took it back home. It was given name Mahapantaka, the great road, and because it had been taken to a highway. Mahapandaka grew up and became a scholar in all branches of Vedic law. He taught the esoteric teachings to 100 Brahmin boys. The Brahmin had another son, and so again he summoned the old women. The same course was taken, but this time they entrusted the baby to a lazy girl who only took him to a small lane. No holy man or Brahmins came by. The Buddha, who constantly looks upon all beings throughout the 6 periods of day and night, could tell that no one was going to use the lane. So he went there himself. The girl prayed to him, and he responded with the same words as before. Later, she saw the child was still alive and carried him home. He was named Chudapandaka, small road. When they grew older, he tried to learn to read. He had to learn words like Siddham, but when he had read the syllable Siddh, he would forget the Dham. But the time he had remastered Dham, he had forgotten Siddh. Shuda's teacher told his father, the Brahmin, "I must teach many other Brahmin boys to read. I cannot teach him." Chudapandaka was sent to a professional reciter of the Vedas and made to read these. First, he had to study the word Om Bu. By the time he mastered the Om, he had already forgotten Bu. On mastering the Bu, he had already forgotten Om. It drove his teacher to despair. The teacher told the boy's father, your other child, Mahapandaka, understands with only a minimum of instructions, but I cannot teach him. I have other boys to teach. So the name Chudapandaka came to mean dullest of the dull. small and smallest of the small. The parents of the two Pantakas later died. Mahapantaka became a Buddhist monk, Buddhist and a monk. He became a scholar in the three baskets and an arhat. Chudapantaka's inheritance ran out, and so he went to his elder brother Mahapantaka, examined his brothers to see if he had any potential for the Dharma. Maha discovered that he did, but that it depends on Mahapantaka himself. So he ordained Chuda. Chuda then spent the next 3 months trying to learn this verse. Do not let your body, speech and mind sin. Be free of desire that afflicts all the worldly. Have remembrance. Be vigilant. Avoid anything harmful, any suffering. The local cowherds overheard the verse, and even they learned it, but Chuda failed. Arya Mahapantaka had at one time thought to himself, how can I tame Chuda? Shall I praise him or insult him? He saw that insulting him would tame Chuda, so he upbraided Chuda, grabbed him by the collar and drove him out of the Jadav Grove. Maha said, you are dull, the dullest of the dull. Why did I ever ordain you? Stay here. Chuda thought to himself, now I am no longer even an ascetic, I am not even a Brahmin, and he wept. The Buddha, our teacher, went to him, urged by great compassion. Pantaka, why are you crying? He asked Buddha. My abbot has insulted me. The Buddha said, some things are praised by churls, some things are disgraced by scholars. Better to be disparaged by a scholar than praised by a churl. My son, your abbot did not endure many hardships from 3 countless eons to complete the 6 perfections. He did not compose your verse for you. I did. Cannot the Tathagata teach you to read? O monk, said Chudapantaka, I am the dullest of the dull, the very smallest of the small. How could I ever learn to read? Buddha, our teacher, replied, the churl who knows he's a churl is truly a scholar. The churl who is proud of his scholarship is the most churlish of all. The Buddha gave Pantaka these words to memorize: abandon dirt, abandon stains. But again, this proved too much for Chudapantaka. The Bhagwan Buddha then thought, I shall purify him of his karma. Pantaka, can you polish the sandals of the monks? Asked the Buddha. Chuda replied, yes, O monk, I can. Then humbly polish the monks' sandals and shoes, said the Buddha. And monks, you must let him do this so that he can purify his karma. Afterwards, recite these words and afterwards reteach him. They did according to his instructions. Then, when Chuda had learned the second recitation, the Buddha told him, you no longer have to polish these sandals. Do the second recitation while you sweep our temple. Now that Chuda had been given the job of sweeping the temple, he developed perseverance while he swept. But when he had finished sweeping the right side of the temple, the left side had become filthy. And by the time he had finished sweeping the left side, the right side became filthy again. This happened through the power of the Buddha. All the same, Pantaka persisted, and his karma and obscurations were purified. So I used to be very naughty. In Potala, there were some very old trunks. Some of them had some gold paintings, and some of them contained the clothes of the previous Dalai Lamas. I have never seen any broom there. So I'm telling the truth. Perhaps Dalai Lama Rinpoche so perhaps Dalai Lama Rinpoche had said those words in order to help beings, because it would be beneficial to say that the previous Dalai Lamas also used to sweep their own rooms and so forth, and there are many brooms, old brooms. And now that Judah had been given this, I've read, this happened through the power of the Buddha. Okay. And when the teacher said abandoned dirt, abandoned stain, did he mean internal and external dirt? Then into his mind 3 verses he had never heard before. Here, dirt is attachment, not dirt. Dirt is the name for attachment, not for dirt. Scholars reject this kind of dirt. They scrupulously follow the Sugata's teachings. Here, dirt is hostility, not dirt. Dirt is the name for hostility, not dirt. Scholars reject this kind of dirt. They scrupulously follow the Sugata's teachings. Here, dirt is benighted ignorance, not dirt, and so forth and so on. He tried to fathom these verses, and through his meditations, he received arhatship. He achieved arhatship. By the way, this is how the verses appear in the sutra. Texts on the preparatory rites and oral tradition of the gurus give this version of the verse. Dirt is not the dirt on the ground, it is dirt of attachment. So we'll stop here. Tembe Ningbo Ringdo Seje Sho
Jeba kanjo chuden jejo na na jo la le bonge teme do mege jube tada chime yodo jebe do je do bon yomo de je nyebe la je je ra je nyemo jebe ni je meze jebe zona la do me yodo janje zae be la jo rene ni do na be de yodo be jo ra wa Endo Jésus son de Ganden la jebe que son yo ne do tenda tende chase ra de jebe le solo je yo kawa jada do be je bona donzen gande do je yo wa do na gombo je re se wa ge se je je ve je kan je je yo so ja je ma la kan de be se sa tende yo do ja Na don chuni some dende don jozo toje do dan le le lo men dende do jogin dembe mala